make sure all of NYC gets counted in 2020? I'm not sure I believe you. Who's here to make sure all of NYC is counted in 2020? Excellent, excellent. My name is Laree Daniel Favors. I'm an attorney and the general counsel at the Center for Law and Social Justice at Medgar Evers College. It is my honor to be sharing this stage with all of these phenomenal census partners and all of you who are in this room. We are excited. We have a ton of stuff to cover today, and a lot of what we're going to be doing is modeling, because we need you to take this energy that we are about to tap into out into our communities, out into your neighborhoods, into your blocks, into your hair salons, your churches, your mosques, your temples, every space where you have influence and where you have friends and family and people that you care about. We need you to get them excited about the census, and here's why. Don't tell anybody, but the census is a little boring. It's not the most exciting of topics. It's not very hyper and energetic. So we need to make sure that today we learn how to dig deep, tap into some energy, because we need to make sure that we excite our community so that they know why the census matters, how the census matters, and what we need to do to get them excited. So, are you with me? Yeah. All right, we're about to get, this is about, when I said modeling, what I mean is we're gonna do some things here that we want you to take out into the audience. So what I want everyone to do is to please stand up. We're gonna get energized, because before we get to the substance of what we're gonna do today, we wanna make sure that our spirits and our energies are all aligned. Am I right? Yeah. All right. So, we're gonna do some chants, some call and response. Now, everyone in the room is wonderfully rhythmic in their own way, but we're not all necessarily rhythmic in the same way. So we're gonna do a little call, we're gonna test it out a little bit, and then we're gonna make sure that we're all together. Are y'all right? Okay. So here, I'm gonna explain it, then you hear it, do it. Okay. When I say NYC, you say count on me. NYC. Count on me. NYC. Count on me. Excellent. That was chant number one. The second one is, we don't want an undercount in New York City. Pause. You count. You heard that pause? It's like a beat. So let's be okay. We don't want an undercount in New York City. You count. See how that works? Let's try it again. We don't want an undercount in New York City. You count. We work. We'll get it. So we might end up saying, if you're from Brooklyn, you count. Y'all caught that? Because Brooklyn's always ready. Because Brooklyn is always ready. If you're from Harlem, you count. If you're from Staten Island, you count, right? So let's make sure we are all together. Let's try this one more time. We don't want an undercount in NYC. We don't want an undercount in Boogie Down Bronx. Perfect. So there's going to be a lot of that today. So you're going to feel like this is a cheer, like a pep rally, because it is. Because we need our people to be excited about what's happening. Because we need them to know that if they do not show up on the census, their communities will not be funded. But we want them to know that if you take your communities from 56% on the census to 86% on the census to not, I'm going for 100%. If you go to 100, what that will mean, the resources, the funds that will come into our community, the services. So when I say NYC, you say, count on me. NYC. Count on me. NYC. Count on me. We don't want an undercount in New York City. Excellent. I love it. Thank you so much. All right, so give yourselves a round of applause. I am excited to tell you we have a lot that's going to be happening today. You are surrounded by people who are going to be out in these streets. We are looking forward to really talking with you this morning about what we're going to be targeting, how we're going to be targeting this afternoon. It's full of workshops. We are going to be hearing from people who have been doing this work at the Center for Law and Social Justice. We started this in 2017, so to be at this moment where we're talking about census at this time is extraordinarily exciting. So we're going to try this one more time, all right? Y'all excited? You notice I didn't say sit down yet because we're going to do this again. Y'all excited? All right. When I say NYC, you say NYC. NYC. We don't want an undercount in New York City. We don't want an undercount in New York City. We don't want an undercount in Manhattan. We don't want an undercount in Brooklyn. If you're black, if you're an immigrant, if you're, who else are we? If you're from New York City and you love this borough, you count. Thank you, everyone. Give it up. Give yourselves a round of applause. And now I'm excited to turn the mic over to Alma. Where is she? Alma Grande. Here you go. Thank you. So give her a round of applause.
Knock, knock. Who's there? Are organizers ready to count people? Yeah. Because I am. And maybe you're asking yourself, what is NOCC? N-O-C-C. Well, it's simple. It's a neighborhood organizing census committee. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Alma, and I'm a youth member of Make the Road New York. In 2020, we have the chance to make sure every single New Yorker gets counted, to get the funding we deserve for our schools, parks, and hospitals. As someone who lives in Corona, Queens, a largely immigrant community, which is known as a hard-to-count area, I know the importance of the census. I went to overcrowded schools, and I live in a community that always had few resources. The same is true for many communities like ours, New York State, and the country. This year, I will make sure my family gets counted and my community gets counted. Because I want to make sure that my niece and other children don't face the same circumstances I face. This is our chance, and that's why we're going to work together with the city and partner from across 5 boroughs to make sure all New Yorkers fill out the census. The future of our neighborhood depends on it. Buenos días, mi nombre es Alma y soy miembro de Se Hace Camino a Nueva York. Este año me aseguraré de que mi familia y mi comunidad sea contada en el censo. Es importante que nuestra comunidad obtenga mejores hospitales y escuelas. Por eso vamos a trabajar con la ciudad para que todos llenen el census. El futuro de nuestro barrio depende de ello. Members of Make the Road New York are excited to partner with New York City to make sure our voices are heard in this process. Thank you, City Council, for providing $40 million for this initiative. Now, I have the honor to introduce you, Mayor Bill de Blasio, who will join us in this fight. Please welcome Mayor Bill de Blasio.
Everybody, Alma is giving us an example we all need. Someone who's ready to make sure her community is counted. Let's thank Alma. Alma, your community trusts you, right? Your community trusts you. You know your community, and your community knows you. And this is all that we need, the ability to go out to the people, make our voices heard, make sure they are counted, but it will only happen if you, every single one of you, put your heart and soul into this crucial mission. Every single one of you can make a huge difference because this is all going to be people to people. That's what's going to matter here. So I want to say to all the people up here who are leading the way, every one of you, every organization you represent, can I say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you. Because this matters so much. This is about whether we're really living in a democracy or not. Think about it for a minute. This is about whether you will be actually counted, whether you will be recognized, whether our city will be seen for what we really are, or whether Washington is going to treat us as something less than what New York City is. That's what we're talking about here. If we are undercounted, we will lose representation in the Congress, period. Period. Don't even wonder about it. They will take it away. If we are undercounted, they will take representation away from you. If we are undercounted, they will not take millions of dollars from your community. They will take billions of dollars away from you, your family, your neighborhood, your city. That's what is at stake here. And brothers and sisters, this is not meant to be a fair fight. Let me speak truth to you. You know, it's not like you're playing a sport and there's a referee and there's instant replay and all that. This is not even meant to be fair. The way Washington set it up was to try to defeat you, to try to deny you, to try to ignore you. But they didn't count on your power. They didn't count on your energy and your activism. Are you ready to show they're wrong? I said, are you ready to show they're wrong? Now I believe you. I want to thank everyone who's been leading the way. Our Deputy Mayor, Phil Thompson, who has put a lifetime into organizing communities and making sure that people's voices were heard. I want to thank our wonderful Commissioner for Immigrant Affairs, Bita Mustafi. Bita has stood up for immigrants time and time again. And this is so much of what this is about, brothers and sisters. Whether we're a nation, a city that honors immigrants, tries to deny their existence. Whether we treat immigrants as whole people, part of our community, our neighbors, or, as some believe in Washington, if they're less than full human beings. A census that purposefully undercounts people who are immigrants devalues them, takes away their humanity. We can't let that happen. We need every one of you and every organization here. I want to thank, in particular, so many wonderful organizations represented, but a special thank you to SEIU Committee of Interns and Residents, Executive VP Dr. Amy Plasencia. Thank you. As wonderful a leader and activist as we've ever known in this state, the former national president and leader of the New York State NAACP, Hazel Dukes. Two leaders in the city council have stood up to make sure the census will work. They've stood up to make sure people are counted. Councilmember Carlina Rivera. Councilmember Carlos Menchaca. Again, so many wonderful community organizations that are represented here, so many labor unions, so many organizations every day make life better in this city. And they're going to make this count, everything it should be. And thank you to our hosts right here at NYU, Senior VP Lynn Brown, Executive Vice Chancellor Jose Luis Cruz. Thank you. A quick confession before I go on. I used to be an activist and rabble-rouser right here in this student center in my NYU days. I want to commend rabble-rousing to all of you. So we're going to need some rabble-rousing in these next few months. Here's the facts. In 2010, New York City had a real effort. And yet 1 in 3 New Yorkers did not respond on their own. A third of the people of this city did not respond to the census until there was outreach to get to them, and we still missed a whole lot of people. This time we have to do something much harder, because this time we have the federal government trying to stop us from getting the count right. They created fear, they created confusion. They tried to convince people that the census was somehow going to be a problem in their life, but they did not count again on the fact that we would organize. And we would involve people from every neighborhood of the city who have the trust of their fellow neighbors. This is what it's all about, the trust. Everyone who's here is going to be able to connect with people on a human level and say, no, wait, don't believe what you're hearing from Washington, D.C. Believe the human being in front of you is telling you this matters. And that if you don't do it, it's actually, if you don't respond to the census, you're actually falling into the trap that Washington, D.C. has set for you. This is hard to explain. It won't be easy, but it's necessary. Now, I'm just going to say one truth, a blunt truth that has to be said. President Trump thought he could bully the people in New York City. He thought he could convince them not to respond to the census. He thought he could intimidate us. Well, he's been away from New York a little too long. Maybe things are different in Florida, but here in New York, we do not get intimidated. We do not get bullied. We fight back, don't we? So everyone, this all comes down to you. And we've got to tell people they matter. We got to tell people that they count. So I'm going to say a few sentences. I'm going to ask you after each one to shout out as loud as you can the words, "You count." Are you ready? Yes. If you're black or white or Latino or Asian or Native American, you count. If you've been here for 40 years or you just came here a few months ago, you count. Si solo hablas español, you count. Cada neoyorquino cuenta. Every New Yorker counts. You count. Everybody, we got a lot of work to do, but I'm looking around the room. I know we can do it. I'm looking at every one of you. I know you got the heart and the soul and the energy and the fight. You're going to prove them wrong. You're going to show what can be done. You're going to make sure every New Yorker is counted. Thank you, everyone. Now, I'm going to introduce someone, and I want to tell you that last year we saw this challenge coming on, and we needed someone with extraordinary energy, extraordinary focus, extraordinary ability to lead this, because we had to get everyone together. We had to listen to what would work. We had to empower people at the community level. We had to put the resources in the hands of community people to make a difference. So we needed someone who really knew how to put this together. And I want to say that Julie Menon has shown me every step of the way that that energy, that focus is going to lead us to victory over these next months. She is our Executive Assistant Corp Counsel and the Director of New York City Census 2020. Let's welcome Julie Menon. Gave you height, too.
Thank you. I'll take that height, Mayor. Thank you so much for that very kind introduction. And what a beautiful room to see this energy, this excitement. It's just fantastic. I first of all want to thank the mayor for his leadership in, first of all, creating the Office of the Census. Because without this, we wouldn't be here and we wouldn't be able to ensure that every single New Yorker is counted. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that. And I really want to thank all of you. This is your campaign. This is your census, and we wouldn't be here without all of you today.
And I'm saying thank you.
I also want to thank our partners at the City Council. This is an unprecedented partnership between the administration and the council. So first of all, to Speaker Johnson, who unfortunately could not be here with us today, but we're thrilled that we're joined by Council members Carlos Menchaca and Council member, I know I saw Carlina Rivera, the co-chairs of the Census Committee. Thank you. And also to CUNY, who we literally would not be here today without them, for their help in administering our fund. And to their Census Corps of more than 200 students who are going to be our census ambassadors. And then last but not least, I want to thank my team. Let me just say, I think we have the most dedicated team at 2020 Census. I'm not going to name all of them by name. They're all here today, but we literally had to build this operation from scratch. And to build a new city entity from scratch is not an easy task. They're totally committed, and I really want to thank them for all their hard work.
So let me just say, as the mayor said, we are all here today really to organize the city of New York, but particularly when it comes to the census, there was a clear plan by the Trump administration to weaponize the census, to basically use what is a constitutional obligation to count us as a tool to harm us, and we're not going to stand for that. And that is why we are going to out-organize and ensure that we get a really fantastic count. As the mayor said, the city's response rate in 2010, it was 61.9%, 14 points lower than the national average. Look, we're New Yorkers. We're in a nationwide competition, let's be clear. We can and we must do better than that. So even in an environment that seeks to divide us, this unprecedented coalition, which you're all a part of, has come together to say that when you threaten us and our communities, we come together and we fight back.
Yes, we do.
So one of the key challenges that we have is communicating the message of filling out the census and why it's important. And so one of the messages that we really want all of you to help us communicate is the census is for everybody. It's our fair share of billions of dollars for healthcare, for education, for senior centers, for Medicaid, for Head Start, for so many programs that New Yorkers depend on. And we want to make sure that people know the census is confidential. It's totally protected. And so those are the messages that we really want to get your help in communicating to everyone. There are 300 programs that depend on us getting a proper count, and that's what's at stake. In addition, of course, to political representation, where we stand to lose up to 2 congressional seats in an undercount. So how do we get this message out? We get this message out through the media that our communities trust the most. So today, I am thrilled to announce that our office is going to spend $3 million in community and ethnic media, in print and digital advertising. This is the largest investment the city of New York has ever made in community and ethnic and digital advertising. We are so proud of that. And 70% of our campaign's total print and digital budget, and the largest single chunk of our $8 million ad and media buy, is going to community and ethnic media. So we're really committed to this. We're going to advertise in a minimum of 16 languages. So minimum of 16 languages, and we also, yes, that deserves applause, and we also are going to, of course, be doing TV and radio ads as well. So it's because we've got the support and talent of everyone in this room that I know together we will have access to the resources and representation that are rightfully ours. So the last thanks I want to give is to our citywide partners. They have been with us every step of the way. It's all of the organizations that have been working with us hand in hand to put together the campaign plan that we are announcing today. And it's my pleasure to introduce one of those partners who's really been there with us, like right from the beginning on my first day, I think, when I first took on this job. So it's my pleasure to bring back to the podium one of our closest partners and really a great leader in the city's census efforts, Lori Daniel Favors, a general counsel for the Center of Law and Social Justice at Medgar Evers College, who's going to once again get us fired up and ready to go.
So I was very excited to hear about that announcement about the investments that's going to be made in ethnic media, because we know that our city is so diverse that it is going to require that type of city commitment in order to get us to where we need to go. Am I right? Yes. All right, how many of you have newspapers, digital sites, radio stations that you listen to that you know if those messages are on those spaces, your community is going to respond differently? That is why these things matter, and that's why we're going to be doing a lot what we're going to be doing today. So before we get into more discussion, I'm going to come back after this, I do need you to stand back again. And remember, we're modeling, because this is what you are going to have to do when it comes time for you to be engaging with your community. You're going to be meeting with people who are coming after work. They're going to have kids there. They're going to be worried about a whole host of things. You're going to have to find your community's why. You're going to have to find why census matters to them, and you're going to have to find ways of getting them excited about it. You all are trapped here with me, so I get to do this by force. So we're going to do this again, all right? When I say NYC, you say count on me. When I say say NYC, you say? Count on me. When I say NYC, you say? Count on me. We don't want an undercount in New York City. We don't want an undercount in New York City. If you're from Harlem, if you're from Jamaica, Queens, if you're from Sunset Park, from Corona, from Flatbush, from the Bronx, Fordham Road, Mott Haven, Brownsville, Bed-Stuy. I'm about to get real Brooklyn-centric. I gotta calm down. Where else are you from? Jackson Heights, Washington Heights, Harlem, New York. If you love the Apollo, if you love your local faith-based initiative, if you love your seniors, if you love the babies in your community, this is why we matter. This is why we count. So when I say make New York count, you say 100%. Make New York count. 100%. Make New York count. 100%. Make Brooklyn count. 100%. Make Staten Island count. 100%. And the Bronx. 100%. Where else we got? Oh, all right. Make Queens count. 100%. We are so excited to be here today. We are excited about this energy. We want to make sure that you guys are able to take this information back with your communities because this is what it's going to take. Now, when we're talking about, and I'm about to pass the mic off to Deputy Mayor Thompson, one of the things that Commissioner Menon just mentioned was focus on what it is that's going to make your community move. Oh, you can sit down. I'm sorry, you can sit down. Y'all thought y'all was about to do another round of cheers. It's gonna be important for you to find your community's why. Like I mentioned at the beginning, the census is not always understood. It's not something that people necessarily recognize as important. For my community, I represent a community of African descent. My mother's from Jamaica. Yes, thank you. My father was born and raised in Brooklyn, and so it is important for me to know what is my community why. When you come from a community like mine, a community of African descent, where the first time we show up on the census in 1790, we're only counted 3/5. Why? Because people wanted to be able to manipulate numbers so they could manipulate the distribution of resources and electoral power. We have to know that history, right? So we know, and that we know there are reasons why my community doesn't show up on the census, because if you knock on our door and we don't know you, we got about a good 400 or 500 year history that lets us know strange things come when people start knocking on the doors at night. First, long time ago, when people was knocking on doors, we were getting dragged out of villages and put on ships and brought to places we had not seen. So we are fearful, rightfully so. We know that on plantations, when someone was knocking on our door, they might be coming to say, your child fit a description. He looked at me wrong. We got to handle this, and we know that there are fears and dangers. We know that when someone knocks on the door now, it might be your child has been arrested. We need you to come down. There's a lot of mistrust. We have to be able to tap into the history of that. We have to be able to recognize that when we are not showing up, there are reasons. There are reasons. It's not enough to just say, count me. I'm from Brooklyn. Why should Brooklyn be counted? Because Brooklyn, which represents the largest congregation of the Pan-African community outside of the continent of Africa and the country of Brazil, when we are all counted, everyone is counted. If we were to raise Black Brooklyn's count alone, I don't think we would be losing representation at the state level. So you have to know your community's why, your community's history. You have to recognize what is going to drive them, what is going to move them. How do I make the census matter to them? Because without that, this becomes very dry. And we can't have that. Our people need resources. This isn't about doing just your civic duty. Yes, it's that. And I know my sister L. Joy Williams, president of the Brooklyn branch of the NWC, would get on me if I said it's not just civics. It is, yes, civics, but it is also you need schools. You need teachers who are properly trained, who have the money to be sure to provide our children with culturally competent education. Your roads need to be drivable. We need services. Our hospitals cannot be shutting down. We have needs. We need to make sure our immigrant community is protected. We have to make sure that the people who need it the most are going to get the resources. It is imperative. We count. We matter. And if we work together, we can make sure we don't just count 50, 60, 70. We're going to make New York City count 100%. All righty, Fetayo, I see you. I see you. I see my Garifuna community over here. I see you. Who else is here? I see you guys. I see you, my Haitian community. I see you. I see you, Brooke. I see us. We are here. But if we don't show up, all right, East Harlem, I got you. If we don't show up on those numbers, it's like Thanos snap his finger and we all just disappear. We're not going to have that happen. We're not going to have that happen. And I know we're not going to have that happen because we have all of you. We have all of us. We have the power that we need in order to make this happen. So it is my honor and distinct pleasure to introduce one of my favorite folks who is a part of this team, Deputy Mayor Phil Thompson.
Wow. Adelante, hermana. You're a beautiful sight. Yeah. You all out here. You look like New York. Yeah. And it's about time we begin telling a different story about New York. That's right. That's really what New York is. I don't know how many of you know the story of the Statue of Liberty. Most people think the Statue of Liberty was donated to New York by the country of France to celebrate the welcoming of immigrants from Europe. That actually is not how the Statue of Liberty got there. The Statue of Liberty was commissioned by France in 1866 to commend America on the Civil War and defeating slavery, which the French said was a model for the whole world. But by 1904, America was segregated, New York City was segregated racially. And the Statue of Liberty was an embarrassment. So they actually had a new coinage for the Statue of Liberty. Emma Lazarus, welcome your huddled masses, welcome. And it became known as something welcoming European immigrants. But the European immigrants weren't told the true story of the Statue of Liberty. Because the idea was to teach European immigrants as soon as they got here to ignore racism, to ignore segregation, to conceive of themselves as somehow different from those people. And we still teach that lie today. So what we're beginning to do with this process is tell a different story. That actually is the true story. A story that doesn't divide us into more than and less than. Let me say that the mayor said it, but let me add another twist to it. If there's an undercount in New York in this census, who exactly is going to be undercounted? It's going to be communities with a lot of immigrants. It's going to be communities with a lot of brown people. It's going to be communities with a lot of black people. Not everybody is going to be undercounted. And so when it comes to losing representation, guess who's going to lose representation in Congress? And it's not only Congress. Black and brown and Asian communities are going to lose representation in Albany. And lose representation in the city council. So it's going to be a wholesale disenfranchisement. Intentional, as the mayor said. Jeff Sessions, who was Donald Trump's first U.S. attorney, used to be a U.S., he was not U.S. attorney, what do they call it? Attorney General, thank you. Who used to be U.S. attorney in Alabama. My wife was a voting rights lawyer in Alabama back then. When Jeff Sessions took one of Martin Luther King's deputies, who was then in his 80s and in the hospital, and had him wheeled into a courtroom, literally on a stretcher, so he could try and incarcerate that man under a false claim of voter fraud. Because this elderly man on a stretcher he accused of trying to register voters illegally, and was a totally false claim thrown out of court But I'm telling you this story to tell you who it is that's sitting in Washington, who it is that cut funding for the census at the national level precisely because they didn't want an accurate count. Now, I come from a family that's been in this country before the Revolutionary War. And before the Civil War, black people were counted in this country as two-thirds of a human. And part of the Civil War was a fight to make sure everybody is counted and everyone is included. And now we have laws called Title 13 to say the government can't pass information from the census to other government agencies for purposes of law enforcement or any purpose. Individual level data. Why do we have that? Because prior to World War II, the government had a program called the Blasio program, which rounded up people of Mexican descent. Didn't matter how far. By the way, Mexicans have been in this country 500 years. We took half of Mexico by violent force. Mexicans are not newcomers to this country. But they rounded up people of Mexican descent, whether they had U.S. citizenship or not, and deported them to Mexico. That was a Blasio program. And then they took Japanese Americans in World War II and put them in concentration camps. We have concentration camps, again, even with children in them, even in New York City, because we separate children from their parents and put them in holding cells. That's nothing but a concentration camp. We're doing it now. They put one of these Japanese concentration camps in Arizona in the middle of a Navajo reservation. So they had a concentration camp inside of a concentration camp. And they're trying to take us back. Back. Because when we have an undercount, they're going back to the two-thirds thing again. When we don't count immigrants who are here, they're taking us back. And again, some immigrants will be counted, some immigrants won't. Can we say we won't go back? We won't go back. But let me say this. If we don't stand up and fight Trump with everything we've got, don't say you won't go back. You're back already. So this fight isn't just about filling out a form. And all of us being in this room isn't just about filling out the census. This is about us building a movement in New York, people, in which all of us are together, not only to fill out the census, but we got a housing crisis in this city. We got people in prison who need to be employed, who need jobs in this city. We got a lot of fighting ahead of us in this city. So this is just put a marker in the ground that we're going to be united, and we're going to fight together. We're going to change this city. We're going to change this country. We're not letting any backward-ass rich billionaire from Midtown define our future for us. We're going to fight.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Phil Thompson, for getting us all energized. Look, this is the kind of energy, honestly, that we need from everyone in New York. We're 8 weeks away from the launch of the census. We're going to be in a sprint to get everyone counted. So this is the kind of energy that we need. Another thing I will say on that, we're a city of 3.2 million immigrants, largest immigrant population in the United States. So what the deputy mayor said about what the Trump administration tried tried unsuccessfully to do to our city, we have to send a loud and clear message on this. And I would just say on one personal note, my mother came here as a Holocaust survivor after hiding in a cellar. My grandfather was killed in the Holocaust. We all have a story, and we need to tell that story and make sure that we are all counted come the census. So now it is my pleasure to introduce our partners in this effort from the City Council, the co-chairs of the City Council Census Committee, City Council members Carlos Menchaca and Carlina Rivera, who are going to talk.
Buenos dias, mi gente. How are we? We've all been in this room listening to the messages that are not just in the policies that we're trying to talk about, but also the voices in our hearts. All the things that we are asking you to do is to mobilize your communities. And it was over a year ago that the council made a commitment, and Carlina Rivera, Councilmember Rivera, and I, and the speaker were dedicated to ensuring that we had enough money in the budget to ensure that we got to that complete count. And that's a testament to elections matter. That's a testament to the community saying to us, this is the mark, do not go down, stay committed. And we were committed, and we made that happen in our partnership with the mayor's office. But we're not done yet. The budget has been allocated, the funding is now yours, and that's where we need to double down on our efforts, to continue to connect to our hearts and that message. Because here's the thing. Us as elected officials and leaders of institutions of government, we're not the messengers here. Government right now is in decay in terms of what the messages have been coming from the federal government. We are not those trusted partners, and we understand that, which is why we are committed so much money to ensure that you, at the ground level, you're the ones that are talking to the communities in Central Brooklyn, our Black and African descent communities, that our communities are connected to for healthcare, for food, for housing, for legal services. Our immigrant communities that go to our community partners to ensure that their mothers understand that they have rights. We also understand that there are Orthodox communities, Orthodox Jewish communities in our communities that have not, to this point, connected to the census. But that's all going to change, especially in Brooklyn, where I'm representing in Sunset Park and Red Hook. Brooklyn in the house, Brooklyn in the house. I see you, Mixteca, in Sunset Park. We are committed to ensuring that you get that message out. And so here's my final call to all of you. This is a call that beyond the work that you're going to get funded for, that whenever you're organizing a small group of people in the next 8 weeks, in the next 4 months, maybe it's a book club meeting, maybe it's a church meeting, maybe you're organizing against a rezoning in your neighborhood. Whatever you are connected to and bringing people together and they are listening to you because you have that mic, you add census to that agenda. You tell them that this is not just about this rezoning that we're fighting. We're not just fighting against gentrification, that we're not just fighting for more funding for our schools or healthcare. The census is what needs to be at the front of that agenda as we fight for all the things that make our communities better. And that's our mission today. Les quiero decir también que eso es algo muy importante, que la promesa de hace un año, de todos los fondos que necesitamos como organizaciones, ya llegó. Y el mensaje es que esta confianza que tienen la comunidad con nosotros no va a ser de nosotros como elegidos, va a ser de las organizaciones que tienen el corazón y esa confianza con la comunidad. Y allí, that's where the magic is. Ahí es donde todo va a pasar. Muchas gracias.
Para mi gente aquí que habla español. Mis boricuas, mis dominicanos, mis mexicanos, ecuatorianos, hondureños, ok. Mis garífunas. El censo es un movimiento, una competencia nacional. Necesitamos recursos para cada persona, para cada inmigrante, para cada niño. Nos aseguramos que a contar a todos. So, estamos aquí porque todo merece una voz. So we are here. This census is a movement. You've heard from these people, these firecrackers right here, getting you hot in your belly, knowing that I want to go out and organize right now. This is a national competition. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself very briefly because, we've been here for a while now. This is a national competition. And if you know me and you're getting to know me, I'm a very competitive person, okay? Be just healthy in a very healthy way, okay? And we want to make sure that every community, every immigrant, every child, we have to make sure they are counted. 1 million children, more or less, babies, were practically invisible in the last census. That is not justice. That is not justice when we have a federal administration that is trying to cut something like food stamps, that is trying to take food out of the mouths of the babies in our communities, who are trying to cut resources for people with disabilities, and who are trying to bring more people into our court system when we know that we have to reform it right now. So thank you. So my story is very simple. I was born and raised in the Lower East Side. No big deal. And I'll tell you, in the 80s when I was born, it was a little different. And we have all seen our communities change very, very much. And what I am trying to hold on to in my community is what is left of our culture, trying to embrace what's new, but preserve what is old and amazing. So when I see less families in my community, when I see Black and brown businesses, those numbers going down, I get upset. We need programs where you have access to capital, where you can build your business. Everything is connected to the census. It is truly America's story. And how we tell our story, it all comes back to these dollars. How you feel? Maybe you should go to your local mental health center and talk to someone. Are you hungry? Where are you getting your food from? As someone who grew up on WIC and standing online at the church pantry, that's what we're here for, to look out for each other. And that's why this is so important to me to be a part of this grassroots effort. I have a history working at a very, very local organization called Good Old Lower East Side Goals. And sometimes I would go to housing court just to be there with someone because they're going through it. These organizations behind me, the labor movement that is taking care of our workers, making sure that they have pathways to real wages. People are going to point to, oh, look at our unemployment rate, it's so low. Those are not good paying jobs. So we want to make sure that we have the programs and services to build our workforce. All of this is connected to the census. So when we perform worse than the national average, I get a little fired up because the count is power. Representation is power. Knowing how many Dominicanos there are in Inwood and knowing how many people are in Central Brooklyn that we need to count, okay? I want politicians coming to me. Oh, you saw how many people there are in the Lower East Side? That Asian community that is growing, what are you gonna do for them? What are you gonna do for me? That's power. To hold us accountable and to make sure that we are taking care of the people behind me. So we all know the deal. In about March 12th, more or less, right? We're gonna start filling out these forms. We are building a team here that's gonna be out, that's gonna be talking to people. And we wanna make sure that we are utilizing already the resources on the ground and taking care of these organizations who have already been doing the work. Because you heard, we are trying our best to put this information into multiple languages. But as the chair of the Committee on Hospitals, you go into Elmhurst Hospital, there are 100 languages being spoken around you. So those dialects, that nuanced information of your block, the organizations know about that. So we need to take care of them. So here we are, really making sure that we're working united. This is right? This doesn't have to do with what party you are a part of. This has to do with how we're making sure that people aren't treated as invisible. So I want to make sure that you know that I am here, I am an ally, I am ready to knock on a door when it's appropriate, okay? You got to know when to step back, step up. I always say you got to know when to be a lieutenant, a captain, or just a private, okay? So this is an opportunity, right, to proudly claim that we are here, that we will not be silent, and that we are all together going to achieve a complete count in 2020. Pa'lante. Pa'lante. And I just want to say, for my Boricuas in Puerto Rico, I just have to say, what is happening, not just in Puerto Rico, but we just had the anniversary of the earthquake in Haiti on Sunday. We are going to have people coming to New York City looking for opportunity to rebuild their life, and we have to make sure they are counted. Thank you.
Thank you. Before our next speaker, I really want to give a shout out to our friends in labor. We are so lucky, yes, to have an incredible coalition of friends in labor who are supporting us. So UFT, 1199, HTC, 32BJ, DC 37. We are so happy that all of you are partnering with us on this effort. Another key partner who I'm proud to introduce are our friends at the City University of New York. So we couldn't have launched our Complete Count Fund without them, and it's my pleasure to ask to the stage Executive Vice Chancellor and University Provost, Jose Luis Cruz.
Buenos dias. Good morning. I want to thank Mayor Bill de Blasio, Deputy Mayor Phil Thompson, Council Members Menchaca and Rivera, Director Julie Menon, and all of our citywide partners, and of course, all of those gathered here today for investing in democracy and supporting the hopes and dreams of those who strive to make their lives here in the world's greatest city, the city of New York. It was inevitable that CUNY would play a major role in this historic census mobilization effort. After all, CUNY is very much New York. CUNY's 25 campuses are the intellectual, cultural, and economic drivers of this city. CUNY's 525,000 students, representing 209 ancestries, embody the aspirations of a city that seeks to meet its full potential as a beacon of hope and a progressive values. CUNY's hundreds of thousands of graduates who make New York City their home advance our city's goals and strengthen our communities. The reality is that CUNY is New York City is CUNY. I'm just going to ask those that are either studying at CUNY, studied at CUNY, or have some family members that are affiliated with the City University of New York to make some noise. The census, as many of those who have spoken here today and all of you who are dedicated to this know, is an essential tool of democracy. The count should be a celebration of who we are as a nation of immigrants. With that in mind, CUNY and the Complete Count campaign will assiduously work in opposition to those who seek to weaponize the census against the communities which represent the very ethos upon which this country was founded. Specifically, the university is providing a work-based learning experience for over 200 students, many of whom are here. Let's give a big round of applause to our students. Students who are educating, engaging, and mobilizing people to complete the census, especially those representing undercounted neighborhoods and populations. I could tell you inspiring stories of every single one of our Census Corps students, but I will share just one quote from one of our students' applications. She's a child of immigrant parents and is Muslim. She wrote, and I quote, "The census is an incredibly important part of the US Constitution. And while not perfect, it is the closest thing America has to an equalizer, where an overwhelming effort is taken to include the often ostracized or ignored." She says that she wants to be a part of this movement and give a voice to those who have previously been systematically isolated. End of quote. The City University of New York is proud to be part of this important effort. Thank you and congratulations to the New York City Complete Count campaign awardees. Let's get to work.
Thank you, Jose Luis. And now it's my pleasure to welcome our host today and our last speaker, Lynn Brown, who is Senior Vice President at NYU.
Thank you, Julie. I'll be brief. You've got a lot of work ahead of you. You honor us by having this rally kick off here, and I want to thank you and say how pleased we are to welcome you to NYU. Like my colleague from CUNY, think about it. City University of New York, New York University. We are the only two universities in the city that carry New York's name in our title, and we carry it proudly, largest private, largest public. And I'm thinking, well, what can we contribute? And I'm going to ask my good colleague, Provost from CUNY, to come up here. Come on, right here, because we have an honor to, we have something to do. So you have spent 3 hours at a minimum. That's considered a course at NYU and at CUNY. 1 credit, right? So stand up, sit up, stand up. By the authority vested in us, we now declare you matriculated and on your way to a university degree in census counting. Go ye forth.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. So a couple of last announcements before we end. You can follow our next steps on social media at the hashtag GetCountedNYC. For members of the press, if you can meet us in room 405 for post-event Q&A, that's across the auditorium when you exit the hall. For those that were here for the rally but are not staying for the convening and the breakout sessions, we really deeply thank you so much for being here and all of your help. For members of the Complete Count Fund Committee, I'm told to tell you to come back in this room at 12:30. And thank you so much for being here today. Let's get counted.